Hey everybody, welcome back. Back on the 2008 Street Glide today. Working on the inner fairing again. As I told you in a previous video, this inner fairing I got here from HogWorkz had a problem when I initially got it. As far as the paint and everything, it's spectacular. But put all the gauges and stuff in, got around to mounting it on the bike, and realized that these three nuts right here for the windshield mount, as you can see, this middle one is broke off and gone. Contacted HogWorkz, explained what happened, showed them a picture. I didn't break it, it was already broke when I received it, but sent them a picture. They said, we'll send you a new fairing, no problem. They did. We've had some snowstorms here and Christmas and New Year's, so a little bit delayed in getting it. Took 3 or 4 weeks, but finally got it. Unboxed it. Everything looks good as far as not being broken or paint problems or anything like that. I was wised up this time and actually inspected it before I did all the work of swapping everything over and setting it on the bike. So going to get the gauges and stuff out of the old one into this new one and get it put on the bike today. Okay, I've got everything stripped out of the old fairing, organized, ready to put into the new fairing. One thing to remember, down here, these two spots, I'll flip it over here so it's easier to see. But these two nuts right here that you see are where your trim piece that goes around your ignition switch screws into. So make sure that you swap these nuts over. They're kind of hard to get to once it's back on the bike, but you need to pull these out of your old fairing and swap them into this new one. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward process of putting the gauges back in. They've got these slots in them where it indexes the gauge so that the gauge will sit straight. You know, it won't be tilted one way or the other once you get everything bolted back in. So pretty straightforward process of putting the stuff back in. We'll get it all together and get this thing set on the bike hopefully today. It's a fairly easy job. I didn't video the first part of it, taking it apart. Wasn't real sure what I was doing. It was the first one I've ever done, and you know, I didn't want to make a really ugly video, so that's what we're left with here. All right, so I got everything swapped over. I'm going to wait to put these two braces here that go over to the edge of the fairing. I'm going to wait to put those on until I get it back on the bike and get the radio put in, because there's a bolt hidden back here for the radio that gets covered up by this nut when you put this mount on. So I'm going to wait on those. This thing's ready to set back on the bike and start putting everything back together. Okay, we're making progress. We've got it mounted back on the bike, or setting back on the bike anyway. I don't have any bolts in it yet. I think the nerve-wracking part's over. Went on here without bumping it around too much or scratching up the paint that I've noticed. The holes down here are lining up in the mounting points. So next couple steps is to get those brackets mounted back on here. The turn signal mounts this chrome piece that slides over the front. Then we'll slide the radio in, get it mounted, and start laying this wiring harness in place. The wiring harness looks a lot more intimidating than it really is. All but just a couple of these connectors only connect to one other thing. In other words, they won't fit anything but the correct thing, with the exception of a couple of gauges. These two gauges over here and the gauges over there. But once we get the wiring harness laid in, the connectors will basically point to where they go. You know, obviously from one side to the other, they'll be way different, so it shouldn't be any problem getting them back where they belong. Got to put the radio in, then I can put these braces back on over here. The bolts that go through this way into the radio, you have to put them in first before you can put these cross braces on. So things are coming along nicely. I'm pleased so far. Like I said, this job looks more intimidating than it really is once you really dig into it. I took a bunch of pictures before I started, so it should go back together smoothly. Get this radio stuck in and see where we go from there. That radio was a lot harder to put in than it ought to have been. These bolt to the radio, and then you slide the whole thing in, and bolts come through here, through this, and into nuts that are captured back here on the backside. The bolts could have stood to be a 1/4 inch longer. It would have made life a lot easier, but it's in there. One thing I wanted to point out, There's a grease fitting here on your front end on touring models. I think some Dynas had them, but definitely on touring models, there it is. Give that a couple shots of grease while you got it apart. So I'm going to do that. Put this chrome piece back on, start laying the wiring in like I said a minute ago. Got the wiring harness back where it belongs. Still need to tie it down here to the braces. I want to get these side braces in first. Get this put on. I decided I would put the wiring in before trying to put that up and mount the fairing because I didn't want it to, all this wiring hanging down here in the way. So I think I did it the easy way there. Okay, so now I'm going to get this in here, get the turn signals mounted, which is what holds the bottom of the fairing in, get these braces in for the outsides of the fairing, get all that done. I just turned the bike on, the power to it to make sure I had all the gauges plugged in, everything was working right. Started the bike, Throttle-by-Wire, because this is a throttle-by-wire. It plugs in down here. Made sure everything worked before I put a bunch of zip ties on it and get a bunch of stuff in the way where I can't swap the wiring around if I needed to. But we're a first time go at this station. Everything's squared away. So we'll get it mounted now. We're not that far from being done. And I think it's looking great. You know, this side's pretty well, this side is done other than mounting this trim piece here. Other than that, it's done. And I think that looks great. I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. I've always wanted a painted interfering to match the bike. If you're wondering, this color is called Crimson Red Sunglow. It's the tank and stuff's pretty dirty in here in the garage, but when it's clean, it sparkles. All right, we've made good progress. Everything's back together. All the wiring connections are straight. I put power to the bike again, checked turn signals, gauges, radio, all that kind of stuff again. Everything's good to go. I've got the side braces in there and tight. I've double checked all the bolts to make sure everything else is tight. So we're really ready to put the outer fairing on. The only connection left is this one dangling here, and that's for the headlight. So I think we're in good shape. It's turning out good. Okay, so I'd gone to put the outer fairing on and realized that I'd made a mistake. This big harness here, before I had it on the outsides of these braces, it wouldn't let the outer fairing go in far enough. So I had to reroute the wires for these gauges, the speaker, all this stuff over here. I had to reroute it around behind these braces on each side. And that lets us tuck up in here a lot more. So now the outer fairing will fit on it. Need to get a little bit of super glue to keep this gasket on here. It's not wanting to stay. But other than that, I think we got it together. I've triple checked all the lights and everything again. In the dash, the gauges work and all that kind of thing. Got all the bolts tightened up for all these braces. And another thing you may have noticed is these orange braces are aftermarket. From the factory, they have real thin metal braces. And one of mine was broke. They've got a tab on them up here at the top where the mold is. One of mine was broke when I took it apart, so I ordered these braces off the internet. They're called Strong Arm braces. That's like the brand name of them. And apparently they're the fix for replacing the factory small thin metal braces, mounts, whatever you want to call them. But I think we got her together. I'm pretty excited about it. It's really nice fairing. I've managed to get it put in there without dropping it, without scratching it or anything else, putting it together. Still got this little hole right here that you can see the light through. That's where the clutch cable originally came through. I had to route it differently because of putting these 12-inch meat hook bars on it. So I'm going to have to find a plug of some sort to close that hole off. But other than that, I'm pretty excited about how it turned out and how good it looks and all that. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Was this worth doing, or do you like painted fairings, or do you like the black look? Let me know. So I think that's it. Everything went together nice and smooth, other than that mistake I made on the routing of the wiring harness. But other than that, it all went back together easy. No issues. Looks pretty good, I think. Need to get it cleaned up out in the sun. Supposed to have some 50-degree days here before long. It's wintertime right now, but it's supposed to warm up enough that I can get it out and wash it and take her up down the road a few times. So Let me know what you thought about the video. I know, like I said earlier, I know I didn't video anything until I was going back together with it, but uh, it's not that hard of a job. I know this video could have been a lot better if I would have shown you how to take it apart and put it back together, but sorry about that. But it's not that hard of a job. You know, it's a little bit detailed as far as getting all the connectors apart and figuring out how to put everything back together and routing and that kind of thing. But it's nothing you can't handle on your own. I took lots of pictures of the connectors and what color wire went where and all that kind of thing. So if I can do it, you can do it. Yeah, until next time, I appreciate you watching. That's no big deal. Chair almost fell over. But anyway, appreciate you watching. Thanks. Have a great day.